So it's time to deploy our app to Vercel. And the first thing you're going to want to make sure of is that you've committed all of your code and you've pushed it up to GitHub. Now I'm not sure if it's entirely mandatory, but it might be easier if you've pushed it into the main branch, at least to start. I know Vercel can deploy from other branches, but I think that's the sort of standard one that it deploys the production build to. So I've already done that. I've got my house course on GitHub. It's all committed into the main branch. So I'm going to go over to Vercel now. So you will need to create an account. It can be free, that's fine. And you're going to need to connect Vercel to your GitHub account. So I'm going to say new project. And here I can say I want to import it from my Lee Halliday GitHub. So we've got the house course right here. And I'm just going to say import. And I want to create it under my personal account, not my work account. So now we can give it a name. So I'm going to keep it as house course. Framework, that's fine. Next.js, it detected it. You don't have to touch the build and output settings at all. But you do have to come down into the environment variables section. So here we need to go and copy all of those environment variables. And I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to go into my .env.local and I just have to go one by one, copy the variable and then the value. Okay, so I'm going to go through them all. If this part of the video bores you, you can just get started adding your own. And we'll see each other on the other side. Okay, so we have the auth domain. We've got the Firebase project ID. Whoop. Next we have the Firebase client email. So remember the ones that start with next public are included in the Webpack build, so they're publicly available. And all of the other ones are kept private, so they'll only be available on the server. This is the big one, the Firebase private key. We're going to copy this one. Now we're down to Cloudinary secret. Paste it in. The public Cloudinary key. We're almost done. The Cloudinary cloud name, just my name. And finally, the database URL to point to wherever we have our Postgres database. Mine's on Heroku. Paste that in. Cool. So there we have all of our environment variables. There should be 3, 6, 9, 10. Just make sure it matches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. So with that set up, you can just click the deploy button. And the first time it does this, it will take a couple minutes because there's no cache it can run off of. It has to install everything from your package.json or probably your yarn.lock file actually. So we'll see each other in a couple minutes. Okay, our build has finished. We get a big congratulations. We can now visit the website, which opens this up in a new tab. And if everything has worked correctly, it will show us our app. Now, remember there's no history in local story or anything, so it's going to pop you, in my case, Niagara Falls. So if we were to switch over to Toronto, there we should have the same two houses. Because in our case, we actually use the same database for development and production. In reality, you'd probably have two different databases. Maybe you'd have two different Heroku accounts, or you'd have a local Postgres for development, and then you'd point it to Heroku in production. But in our case, we're all good to go. We've got our homes, we're deployed, and what I've got next is actually a bonus video. So the course itself is done, but we're going to add one bonus video where we add a little bit more security to our authentication token. So I'll see you in that video. Thanks a lot for sticking with me.